I'm very happy. First of all, I would like to convey my pranams to Revered Swami Nikhileshwaranji, who is presiding over this session, and my namaskars, loving namaskars to all the other Swamijis and the speakers who are participating and sharing their thoughts in this very important seminar on world peace, which has been organized by Vivekananda Manav Prakarsha Sansthan. So it is a very relevant topic because peace in the world, which is disturbed due to several conflicts. Conflicts can be of different levels. They can be individual, internal conflicts, conflicts within the family, conflicts within the society around you, conflicts between nations, political conflicts, cultural conflicts, civilizational conflicts, but most of them have their roots in the deepest endeavor of man, that is religious conflict. By religion, I mean spirituality. I do not mean the dogmatic or the formal part of religion. I mean spiritual values have all the conflicts that we see in the secular world, in the materialistic world, has some counterpart in religious faith that history shows. So, but unfortunately, religion, as Om Prakash Verma ji mentioned just now, religion has not only brought peace and blessings upon mankind, but has often resulted in conflicts at national or even international level. So, religion has been used as a tool for persecution. So, to set it right, Swami Vivekananda, as it were, represented his master Sri Ramakrishna, who was a personification of Vedanta, the eternal, the religion based on eternal truths, which had their roots in Indian subcontinent. So, as we all know, Swami Vivekananda's participation in the Parliament of Religions in 1893 was the beginning of a new hope of his subsequent preaching, which he did, of the concept of universal harmony, and another important concept, which is trying to find unity in diversity. Unity has to be established for world peace, but that doesn't mean that we have to get rid of diversity. It will never be. Prakriti has been designed in such a way, nature has been designed in such a way that the three gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas in their various combinations will give rise to wonderful diversity, not only in nature, but in human mind, human race, human thought, at the physical level, at the mental level, and also at the spiritual level. So there is a lot of diversity. Religion is supposed to be a unifying source on one hand, but very often we see, if it is improperly understood, it will serve as a dividing force, and that leads to conflict. So I'll now base, because the time is short, I'll share some thoughts on a very wonderful talk Swami Vivekananda gave on 14th June 1896 in a place very near our place, which is known as Piccadilly in London. He gave a wonderful talk on one of the biggest institutes here, which was the Princess Hall, which accommodated about 1,000 people. It was a very big hall, and he spoke to a crowded audience on a theme or topic, the ideal of an universal religion. So in this talk, he gives the essence of how world peace, he gives a practical plan how world peace can be enabled in the universe, a practical plan which would harmonize not only the various religions of the world, but different endeavors, different secular endeavors also. So he says, in the first part of his lecture, he says that this idea for world peace or unity, trying to find some kind of unity in diversity, has been attempted so many times. Some people attempted it through politics, trying to rule over the whole world, thinking that if there are no competitors, the whole world is ruled by one particular emperor, then there will be peace and harmony, there will be no quarrels. There have been attempts made in the secular field, in the scientific field. Science tried to uh, criticize, or maybe they try to say that science can provide such a foundation, because science is based on principles, not on religious dogmas. So they fought, especially in Europe, when there was this renaissance. They tried to use science as a unifying force. He said if all are scientific in their approach, then the world can be united, there can be harmony. And hundreds of attempts have been made politically, from the field of religion, in the field of social experiments like different isms, communism, socialism, and so many political systems have been tried. And attempts have been made not only in India but Alexandria, in Europe, in China, in Japan, Tibet, and lastly USA, where after the two world wars, a harmony was sought to be set up in the world by forming international organizations as United Nations, UNESCO, to make all attempts, all human attempts, the diversity that we see in humanity, to come together and try to force a unity in the midst of this diversity. But unfortunately, they failed. And why did they fail? Why do they still fail? Why do these organizations, very big organizations, peace organizations, why don't they succeed? Swami Vivekananda says in this particular talk, they do not succeed because they do not follow a particular plan. Many have admitted, many of these attempts that we made, they have attempted that all religions of the world are right in their own way. Many of the people, except the dogmatic people, the fanatic people, many liberal people have said that all religions should coexist with each other in peace. But is it practical? Is there any practical way of bringing all these people together so that they can maintain their own individuality? The main point here, Swami Vivekananda emphasizes that without losing their individuality, without losing their own uniqueness, can you bring about unity? Unity doesn't mean uniformity, that all people should behave in a particular way, all people should believe in one thing. No, you have to allow people the freedom to express, to maintain, express his own individuality, but at the same time, you have to find out some underlying unity. So that's why Swamiji says, the only plan which I propose, which is practical, is that you do not attempt directly or indirectly the individuality of any individual, any man, any society, or any culture. The moment you try to suppress the individuality, suppress individual freedom, then there is problem, there will be conflict. But Vedanta offers a wonderful solution, which he pointed out. He says, try to tell every individual that there is a point of union with all others at some deeper level, at some deeper spiritual level, where there is unity. But at the superficial level, don't force them to have unity. Just as many reform movements like the Brahmo Samaj, the Prarthana Samaj, and many other reform movements in India try to mix different religious ideas and make a hodgepodge of different religious ideas and bind people to a few doctrines. And as a result, what they have done is they have not solved the problem of world conflict. What they have done is they have created a new sect. And the more such sects are created, the more there will be quarrel. They are fighting, struggling, and pushing against each other, because they believe that our combination of different dogmas which we have done is the only way to universal religion. And each religion believes that our religion is the best and we will bring about unity in the world in the name of our religion. but we will not accept you. So Swami Vivekananda says, what to do in such a situation? He says, I also present my little plan. This is said in London. What is that plan? In the first place, Swami Vivekananda says, every individual, at the individual level, every individual should recognize this maxim that do not destroy. And this he learned from his great master Sri Ramakrishna. So he says, if you have some icon to motivate you, it is fine, but don't force others to have the same icon. So reformers who try to force people to follow a hodgepodge of different dogmas put together, as the Brahmo Samaj also tried. They took some elements from Christianity, some elements from Islam, from Hinduism, and try to put together some doctrines which will enable unity. But Swamiji says that will not work. It is a superficial attempt to bring about unity. He said, allow the freedom for everybody to flourish in its own, in his or her own way. Break not, pull not anything down, but build. If you help, if you can help, you do help, but do not injure. If you cannot render help, just keep quiet. And don't say a single word against any man's condition as far as they are sincerely attempting to do what they think is right. This is very important. That's why he says, my master recognized this fact, Sri Ramakrishna recognized this fact, and his unique contribution is he took man where he stood. Take a man from where he stands and from there give him a lift. Don't criticize him. If that were true, and then he gives the beautiful example, he gives a beautiful example that suppose there is a circle and God is the center. We are all on the circumference of that circle and we are all trying to go towards the center. Each of us is moving in a different path. But the nearer we come to the central point, that is God, that is the pure spirit, the more we go towards the pure spirit, all our differences vanish. The distance between the 2 points on the circumference, which was too much, when they come nearer to the center of the circle, all these radii will meet. And if we accept this fact and accept them freedom to follow their own path, finally, with the thought that they will finally meet at the center. At the center, Swamiji says, all the radii will meet, all our differences will vanish. And he said, but until then, we have to allow them to follow their own road, their own path. Each of us, he believed, is growing and developing according to his own nature. And he says, finally, each will in time come to know that the highest truth will have to be reached by every individual, because men have to teach themselves. Don't assume the role of a master telling him what to do. Give him the individual freedom, but tell him that finally they have to reach that unity. So in the famous talk, apart from this London talk, in the first talk he gave in the West, that is in the Parliament of Religions, he said, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. And towards the end, he added one important line. He says, try to assimilate the spirit of the other, whether it is in the scientific field or social field or even spiritual field. You have to understand the spirit of the other, help him to preserve his individuality and grow according to your law of growth. You can't grow according to his law of growth. You can't impose a foreign civilization on another civilization. They have to grow in their own way. They can borrow some good ideas. So he generalized this whole thing, and I will conclude with this wonderful example he gave. He says humanity has developed for centuries in 3 main streams. What are these 3 main streams? He says the first stream, which has had its influence all over the world, is the Roman civilization. These are Swami Vivekananda's thoughts, which he expressed in the West. He said the Roman civilization gave the world the excellence in politics administration. So all the systems that we see in the world, whether it is socialism, capitalism, any parliament and all those things, they have been the result of the political acumen of the Romans. But he said, along with their strength, politics and administration was their strength. That's why they ruled over the world politically for a many number of years. But they had a problem, they had a weakness, and that is cruelty. Along with power comes cruelty. So Roman civilization, minus its cruelty, they would have survived. And though their influence they have, Rome is not existing anymore, just as Om Prakash ji said now. Where is Rome? It's just a capital. But their ideas have spread. Every country follows some kind of democracy or parliament, and they have adapted. So we have to acknowledge the contribution made by the ancient Romans. Though because of their cruelty, they were all destroyed. The second civilization, he says, is the Greek civilization, which gave us the science, technology, and the arts. They had a wonderful civilization. They wanted to unify world through material development. But they had a weakness, and that weakness was some kind of worldliness or some kind of desire to be materially rich. The pleasure-seeking attitude which they had, that led to the downfall of the Greek civilization. And then finally, he says the third force which was developed in India or in the Orient for the good of the world was spirituality. And that can unify the whole world at the spiritual level. But do we not have any defect? If we were perfect, then we would not have been ruled for so many years by so many civilizations. The Romans, the Greeks, the different nations of Europe who got inspiration from these Romans and Greeks. They came and ruled us. The Mughals came and ruled us. What was the reason? He said in Hindus and the Indian civilization was highly spiritual, but at the same time, they were highly impractical. So he wanted to combine spirituality and science or the technology, the materialism of the West with the spirituality of the East, and he combined it through a beautiful path which he got from his master, the service of God in man, the spirit of trying to see God in man. So a universal religion, the principles of universal religion according to Sanatana Dharma, the spiritual values as a unifying force for humanity is very important. But he says at the same time we have to work in the practical field. Indians and the Orientals have to be practical. We have to eradicate poverty. We have to create work for a living, to eliminate inequality, disruption which is there in our society, which are the causes of human disunity and lack of peace in the world. That can be done by this wonderful theory or the wonderful doctrine, or you may say the wonderful idea that he got from his master, trying to serve God in man. That is only then we will find that these values become part of our education. He says all these things have to go from childhood to through the system of education, not when people are old, when they can't change. They have to be given through the medium of education. And if these values, these wonderful universal values of unity in diversity, accepting diversity, at the same time emphasizing spiritual unity, if they become part of our education, not only in India but all over the world, that is what UNESCO is trying. But unfortunately, they are not going deep enough, as Swami Vivekananda suggested. They took inspiration from Swami Vivekananda, but unfortunately, they have not practicalized it. When we do that, finally, we not only can hope, we can hope that there will be true peace, and peace will prevail in the world for the benefit of the entire humanity. So I thank Om Prakash Verma ji and all the organizers of this wonderful event for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you all. Thank you. On the eve of his birthday, we are celebrating his Janmati